Welcome back to the channel. This is the place where we explore software development, we dive into exciting technologies, and learn how to build amazing projects together. By the way, if you're new here, I'd love to have you join this growing community of passionate developers. Just hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest tutorials, tips, and coding fun. It is free and it really helps support this channel. Alright, let's dive straight into today's session. In the previous videos, we were able to develop our core services. We were able to develop the Authorization and Authentication service, the Eureka server, the expense tracking system, and of course, our API gateway. And in the last video, we were able to set up our Grafana for our log to check our logs and the performance of our applications, right? So in this video, our aim is to complete this series by creating our UI or our front end using Angular. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. So the first thing we want to do is definitely set up our Angular and set up our Node, all right? To do that, you go to Google and go download Node. For me, I'll be using the version 22.11.0. I already have it downloaded. And so I'm just gonna install that. All right. I'm gonna use all the defaults to install it, no issues. And then when you click on the install it, it's gonna ask you for security questions. Just click on the yes. Awesome. This looks good. The next thing we want to do is install our Angular CLI. I have already created this project, so it won't take us too much time, but I want you to understand how to install and create this project from scratch on your own, okay? So the next thing we want to do is install the Angular CLI. How do you do that? Just go into your, I'm using Git bash, you could use your CMD, as the case may be. So you want to do npm install, then -g, which it means global, at Angular/CLI. Okay, let's wait for that to complete. Awesome, that is done. Okay, we can now generate our applications as we want. Okay, but first let's just see what versions do we have for Angular and for Node. So to check that, we can just do ng version. We have version 18. Can we check Node version 2? Let's just check Node. So we have version 22.11, which is good. So let us just create an application. To do that, we can do ng new, the name of the application you want. Let's just name it test application, right? Good, it's generating. All right, so that is generated. Now we can then cd into it. Let's just cd into it, test application, and then we could just, let's run it. Yep, it's building. Awesome, so it started on port 4200. So if we run this, hopefully it's still running. I haven't broken it. Okay, I broke it. So let's see. Alright, so it's still going. Alright. Awesome, so we've successfully created an Angular application, right? Now, if we just, let's assume we just want to update it, like we just want to update it with anything, right? We could just go into it. I have it opened in my VS Code, okay? And let's just assume that we just want to update, let's just clean out this and just put something else there, right? You could do that by going into the apps, the source apps, and of course app components.html. Let me just clear this and just put something different, right? So I leave only the route outlet. Awesome. So if we save this, it should rebuild and everything else should be gone if it's still running. Okay, it's not running anymore. No. Alright. ng serve. Oh, I closed it again. Alright. So let's just do this and then run it again. Awesome, so it's cleared out. It looks clean. And then so if you just want to add anything, say for example we want to add maybe anything, let's just add a text, right? So we could just do an h2 tag and add, say, test header. That works. And then there you go. So you are able to create and update your Angular application. So let's just dive into the main income and expenses application. All right, let's go over the code. So the first thing we did, if you remember the logic from how to log in and how to register, right? So I have different components here: the dashboard, the header, of course, and the side navs. So let's go over the dependencies first of all. All right, so the dependencies are managed in the package.json, right? So if we go over the dependencies, you see I have prime icon, I have prime ng. Most of this I didn't use, so you could take it out if you don't need it. I have ng select. Now ng select is what I used for my select box, like if I want to set an income or an expenses, right? So I use ng select to select which one it is. So that's pretty much it for dependencies. Let's go over it again to see if I'm missing something. Yes, I have Tailwind as my CSS. Makes it easy for me to write an inline CSS. And of course you have post CSS and one more, auto prefixer. All right, now let's go over the code one by one. So let's go on to the login page, right? So you have the login here. I have the login HTML and I have the TS. Let us start this. Let's start this. Let's see how this works. Okay, and I'll explain to you one by one what does what, right? So in this login, you have this HTML, the login component HTML, and if you notice here, it has another component in it, which is the login form, right? So what I did here is to use Tailwind to divide the screen into two. Here you see it says it makes it easy to write your CSS and makes it so easy to add your responsiveness into it. So what I did here is to make sure that, okay, it is flex and it is in column, and when it is when it's medium or less, it goes into row and things like that, in column and row. All right, so let's go over the screen. So this is the login screen, what it looks like, right? It is side by side, but what happens when the screen is smaller, right? So let's just cut the screen a little bit and make sure it goes a little bit smaller. Yeah, the image is height and this goes in the middle, and then it is responsive, right? So that is what I did here. Here you have, okay, it is in column, but when it is in medium, just change the flex to row. And of course, I did a 50-50 side by side, which is the large 1/2, and of course column and 2/3, which means the image here, which is the pre-screen image here, is 2/3 in width. All right, and then I make it hidden, but except it is large and more, right? And of course the background is cover, center, and all those fun stuff. So you can change this to whatever you want on your own end, right? Okay, so let's go back to that screen. Now we also have the register. So here, if let's assume you already have, you do not have an account, you could just go here and also click on the sign up, right? And then you are able to sign up, or you do your register. So if we go back there to the component for the register, the same thing I did, right? So you have the register, and then you have the register form, and then you have the image also, same thing, just like the login screen. But the difference again is the form, all right? The form here, you have, let's go back to the screen, and so you see what it looks like: the first name, last name, username, password, and confirm password. Now I have all those here, and then when there's an error where say for example the user did not put in the name, you see all those errors and the response messages and all those logs. So welcome, please enter your details. Those are normal stuff that I have here. Welcome, please enter your details, and the logo and all this fun stuff, right? That is it. Okay, so what happens when you log in? Let us log in. If we go back to our postman from the previous time, we have a postman here that generates the token, right? So the credentials I used earlier was test user and password 123, and we could just log in and see. Let's go back, click back on login. I could just do password. See, I'm able to log in. All right. As soon as I log in, what are the first things I see? Of course, I have my dashboard. What I did was just to redirect to my dashboard as soon as I log in. So let's look at how that happens here. So when you do your login, on the login form, that's where I have the logic. So in my login, after logging in, let's go over it step by step. This is the login function, right? In my code here, in the login form here, I'm using a form group, and I have the login user as the method. So when it's submitted, it uses the login user to process my request. All right, either good or bad. So if we go into the login user, now if the form itself is valid, right, we are setting a username and password and the values, and then we're going into our service. Now this service is the one calling our endpoint, which is our backend, the API gateway in this case, right? So it is redirecting, it is calling the API gateway and making sure that we have an observable, right? And then it passes the username and the password and calls the endpoint. And as soon as the endpoints get called and everything looks fine, it saves the token into our local storage. So if you want to look at the local storage here, you could just right click and then inspect. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. All right, so we inspect. That should be in applications, and then yeah, this is the local storage. So it's saving it into the local storage. So let me just zoom in one so you guys can see better, and then we go into the code again. Let's see if I can zoom in here again. All right, so after saving it, right, it saves it definitely. And if you want to call to your income and expense service, right, you will need the token definitely, because the token has to go with the header, or else you get unauthorized, right? So that's why I have a method here to get the token. And I also, of course, have the clean, and I also have the logout here, right? So let's go back to the form itself. All right, so you have the on init here. You are saying, okay, as soon as it comes on, initialize this login form. All right, and then we also have the toggle visibility, the password visibility. Let's just go back to the form. Let's just log out. Let's log out again. So this is the toggle I'm talking about. So if you want to type in your password, for example, right? So this gives you the toggle. That's what I did in there. So let's just log in back again. And when you're logging, it says login successful. And then it calls. Let's look at how it's doing it. After logging in, right? Let's assume we're just logging in. It then calls the income and expenses server, right? And then gets these transactions. If for any reason you're not sending your token, right, what happens is it comes back with maybe an unauthorized 401 or 403, right? So here you're sending it and it's getting our expenses, right? Which is what we want. And it's populating it as it should be. All right, let's now go back to our header. Of course, we have the header here. The header here also is this one, this header, where you have the logout, and then you also have the sidebar. The sidebar is also here, which is easy. The sidebar just holds the links you want to go to, which is okay. You can take out anyone you do not want. You could just pull the code and just play around with it. No issues, right? Then let's go back to the income and expenses. So for the income and expenses, right, again, the dashboard holds the table, right? I'm putting the table in the dashboard. You can put it anywhere you want, and I made the table sortable in such a way that you can just click on it and it could sort as you want. You could just sort it as you want, maybe by date or by ID and whatever you want, right? So now let's go to create. this is how to create our transactions. So if you want to create your transaction, definitely you want to put the amount, the transaction type, and then you want to put the descriptions and then the date, right? Which makes sense, right? So let's just try it out, right? So let's assume our amount is 1,000. All right. There is more you can do to this. For example, you could make sure that it comes maybe in decimal. You can make sure that it auto formats the amount, whatever you want to do. So there is more to this. I'm just making this as simple so you could understand what's going on behind the scene. All right. So you could type in the amount, and then here you could select the type. Right. Let me just zoom in again. You could select the type, and let's say expenses, and then let's just make it test descriptions, right? Then you could select the date. For here, I'm selecting the date, and assuming it's, let's just say 21st, maybe 6. Again, you could do more to this. You could just say, you could make sure that it doesn't go beyond today and things like that, right? You could put more validation to it. I'm only making this simple, right? So after that, you just click on the create transactions, and as soon as you create your transactions, we see it's here, right? We just create another one just to be sure. Again, let's make this 999.9, whatever, and then make it income, and then again test 2, right? And then we just want to select the date and create the transactions, right? So this is test 2, all right? So which makes sense, right? So I think we're able to cover all when it comes to the project end to end. Again, what we did was to make sure that all the microservices, they work hand in hand, and we're able to achieve that in the series that we've done so far. Feel free to pull the project, test them out, play around with them, learn more, and that's why we are here to learn, right? And once again, I'm super thrilled to be your instructor for this journey. Please subscribe, leave your comments, click the notification button to stay updated with our new videos, and most importantly, share with your friends. If you have any comment, if you have any questions at all, if you're facing any challenges, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and I would attend to them appropriately. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.